Welcome to Blue Pen Land again. I'm going to do another example of a formative assessment for vectors. So let's look at this. This thing has a magnitude of 129, so this 129 meters, and then this is 21 degrees. Is that little angle there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to fill in this nice little table here. I'm going to call this guy vector A, call this guy vector B, and we want to find A plus B. So A, B, A plus B. And really my first step is to find the components of that. And then I'm going to add the x to the x and the y to the y, and it's all going to be good. But the very first thing is the hardest step, is to find these components. So let's spend some careful time finding these components. So let's go. Step one, draw the components. So start at the tail, go to the tip, up, and to the left. Up and to the left. Those are my components. This is adjacent. This side is opposite, right? And as always, my adjacent side is going to be hypotenuse cosine of the angle, right? So 129 cos 21. Let's try that. 129 cos. Be sure at this point, double check that you are in degrees. If you start getting different numbers from me, you could be in radians. 120.43. Okay, now let's find the opposite side there. That's this little thing that goes to the left there. That's 129 sine of 21. This should be a smaller number than this. 129 sine of 21. 46.23 is rough what I'm going to write down. Okay, and indeed that is shorter, right? Okay, now the next thing is we've drawn the components, we've found how long the opposite and adjacent sides are. Now we have to decide if they're plus or minus or x or y. So my adjacent one is this guy. It goes up and down. So since it goes up and down, it's a y. Since it goes up, it's positive. Okay, this guy here, the opposite side, which is horizontal, okay, that guy is definitely the x direction. Since it goes to the left, since we are to the left of the y-axis there, right, this guy is definitely negative. Okay, so now let's fill this thing in. A, if we're doing x direction, y direction, is minus 46.23 in the x direction, so that's meters x direction, and then plus 120.43 meters in the y direction. So, okay, so let's do B. I can hardly wait to do B. So step one, draw the components. Go from the tail to the tip. That's the tail. The tip is the one with the arrow on it, right? Okay, and then draw those guys. The x and the y components are at right angles to each other because they're in the x and the y direction. Yeah, kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch where you turn only one knob. Okay, we are told that this hypotenuse is 173. This angle is 35 degrees. Okay. So this side here is the opposite side. This side here is the adjacent side. Right? The adjacent sides touch the angle, opposite sides do not. They are, as the name applies, opposite the angle, right? Okay. So now we're set. Now let's figure this out. So my adjacent side is equal to 173. It's always hypotenuse cosine of 35. So 173 cos 35 is 141.71. Okay, now my opposite side is 173 sine of 35. Gotta put the parentheses around there, man. Okay, so here we go. 173 sine 35. I'm getting 99.23. Okay, so now we got to decide. Let's see, adjacent side. That's this side here. It's definitely horizontal, so it's x, right? Since it goes to the left, since this tip of this thing is to the left of the y-axis, it is definitely negative. Okay, now this opposite side here goes up and down, so it's definitely the y direction. Since it goes up, since this is above the x-axis, right, that is definitely a positive y. So let's write these guys in. Negative 141.71 and positive 99.23. And that's meters in the x direction, meters in the y direction. Now, before we get any farther, let's just double check our components, okay? This guy here should have a lot of y and a little bit of x. A lot of y, a little bit of x. This guy should have a positive y and a negative x. Positive y, negative x. That's good. This guy here should have a lot of x, not so much y. A lot of x, not so much y. It should have negative x, that is, it goes to the left, but positive y, negative x, positive y. Okay, this is good. Now we're set. Now we're going to add these guys. So 46.23 plus 141.71. Those are both negative. 187.94, negative 187. Right? And that's meters in the x direction. That's the sum, for the sum of it, that's the x component, right? And then we're going to add these guys, 120.43 plus 99.23. 219.66. And that's meters in the y direction. Positive that, right? Okay. Now we're set. Now we got to draw a picture of this bad boy, right? Okay. So notice that the x component's negative. So we start here. I got to go to the left, right? So let's go to the left. And then from there, we got to go up. Right? And this side should look longer than this side. Really, I should have made it look longer than that, but I kind of ran into some numbers there. So the components do what they do. The x is to the left, the y is up. Yeah. The vector starts at the tail of the first component, the x component, if you draw that first, and ends at the tip of the last one. That's the vector, right? I'm going to find this angle just for kicks. And let's find the magnitude. That's going to be the hypotenuse, right? The magnitude is going to be the square root of the square root of this guy squared, so 187.94 plus 219.66 squared. So let's do that. 187.94 squared plus 219.66 squared, 289.1, so 289 roughly, right? Ta-da. Okay, now be very careful. Notice that that's a negative number. Notice that I didn't make it negative in there. If you do make it negative, make sure that the unary minus and on the TI calculator is inside parentheses. Because TI calculators will, if you say negative 2 squared, you'll get negative 4. So be careful. Okay. And then I want to find this angle there. That angle is going to be the inverse tan of the opposite over the adjacent. So the opposite side is 219.66. This side is 187.94. So opposite is 219. Right? And then it's 187. Let's try that. Second tan, 219. By the way, we should get a number bigger than 45 degrees, right? And then when you do this, do put parentheses. If your calculator doesn't, when you go inverse tan, if it doesn't put parentheses, you put your own parentheses there. These parentheses are not a serving suggestion. They're obligatory. All right, here we go. 49.4 degrees. So yeah, it's bigger than 45 degrees, not by a lot. Right, so that's 49.4 degrees. This magnitude is 289 meters. There you go. So step by step, find the components of each one, then add x to x, y to y, get the answer in component form, draw a picture of it, find the magnitude, find the angle.